They were 60, 60 watt or 13 or whatever it is, 11 or whatever.
Now they're
100 watt.
all right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Recognition of members present. The entire council is here. Also, the city administrator, Mr. Sutherland, is here, and the city clerk, Ms. Hughes, is here. If you would all join the city council in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under general, I guess we've seen enough of the obits that Mr. Rosenberg has passed away. And I'd also like to recognize, but I'd like to recognize on a positive note, the city staff is present. The Public Works Director, Pat Fox, and the Deputy Public Works Director, Travis Moore, are both here. The city solicitor is here, Mr. Tim Murphy, Deputy Chief Jack Clements, Emily Roy, the Communications Director, Dawn Roth, Facilities, and of course, fresh from her relaxing vacation, probably not that relaxing, is our Economic Development and Planning Director, Denise Clavette. Also, Mr. Biggs is here from Saco Main Street. But next up, public comment is Steve Scheinman, the school board liaison to the city council, who will update us on what's going on with the schools.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a meeting last Wednesday. We approved all the principals. It's kept the status quo in other positions. And it was a relatively short meeting. We are looking forward to a week from Wednesday and a joint session with the council and go over the budget that we submitted to you. And I also say that our business manager, Jason, has been very open to questions that you may have. And I do suggest that you bring them up with him before then, or at that time. We're very open to that. We think about it. We tried to think this through carefully, but mainly we want the communications to be good. So anything that is on your mind, you should bring up. And I'm looking forward to this process of working with you on that. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Scheinman.
Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Harkins. If you would step forward and state your name and address for the record.
John Harkins, 4 Christopher Terrace. Just a few comments. I'd like to commend the staff for the excellent job they did on the new website. It'll take a little bit of getting used to. Excuse me, fighting this. I'm a little bit concerned about the TIF. There was an encumbrance in the year 2018 budget, and the approval occurred in 2019. I'm not sure that this is a legal process. Also, tonight on the executive session, what is it about? Usually it's identified as a real estate matter or personnel matter, et cetera, and that seems to be amiss. And purchasing, last week I commented about bidding. There was no way of impugning that I didn't feel satisfied with the contract or the contents of that contract. It just occurs to me that if the administrator has unlimited authority to go out and waive or do not bid on any items that come under the purview of the council, then this could lead to abuse. We have nearly $1 million in capital acquisitions every year that are financed over a period of time. And how many of these have been out to bid? I look at the newspapers and I don't see too many of them. Just a comment. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And Mr. Sutherland, during administrative update, you can speak to the waste contract extension, I think, because I believe the council actually looked at that. I was just making a comment to Mr. Sutherland about making an addition to his administrative update. So the next up is Ms. Coleman. Okay. Does anyone wish to address the council? Seeing none, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So I would ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
Second.
So the consent agenda has been moved by Councilor Minthorn and seconded by Councilor Johnston. And this is, as a reminder, the minutes for the previous consent agenda were tabled. That's item A on the agenda, to remove that from the table. So this is a brand-new consent agenda. It has in it adding to the main PERS COLA for the police, confirming my appointment to Coastal Waters and my appointment to Economic Development. And I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Anything wish to be pulled from the agenda? Councilor Copeland.
Nothing needs to be pulled.
Okay.
I
yeah,
just
thank
wanted
you.
to point out that we're very
Affirmative.
lucky to have citizens such as John Safford in our community who step up to serve on these committees.
Excellent, thank you. Any comments or to my right, I should say? Seeing none. So the motion on the floor is the consent agenda. Councilor Johnston
Yes.
and Councilor Smart,
Yes.
Councilor Minthorn,
Yes.
Councilor Copeland,
Yes.
Councilor Doyle,
Yes.
Councilor Gay,
Yes.
and Councilor Archer.
Yes.
The motion to accept the consent agenda passes 7-0. The next item on the agenda is an item that was tabled. I would like to have a motion to remove that from the table. It's the minutes of
So moved.
February 4th and February 19th. So the motion to remove from the table has been made by Councilor Copeland. Do I have a second?
Second.
So the second is from Councilor Johnston. So any comments to my right? Any comments to my left? Seeing none, Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Councilor Smart?
Yes.
Councilor Minthorn?
Yes.
Councilor Copeland?
Yes.
Councilor Doyle?
Yes.
Councilor Gay?
Yes.
And Councilor Archer?
Yes.
The motion to accept the minutes for February 4th and February 19th passes 7-0. Oh, move from the table, excuse me. So the minutes are now removed from the table. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes for
So
February
moved.
4th and February 19th? The motion has been made by Councilor Copeland. Do I have a second? The second is made by Councilor Minthorn. So I have a motion to accept the minutes of February 4th and February 19th. Are there any comments to my right? Are there any comments to my left? Thank you. Councilor Archer.
Yes.
Councilor Gay.
Yes.
Councilor Doyle.
Yes.
Councilor Copeland.
Yes.
Councilor Minthorn.
Yes.
Councilor Smart.
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
The motion to accept the minutes passes 7-0. The next up is excuse me, I have to get up to, is item B on the agenda. Councilor Copeland, do you have a motion?
I do. One moment, will I get there? Oh, it's changed from what was on there. All right, hold on a minute. No, that's not it either. This is, the links aren't working. Let's put it out. As part of the fiscal year 2019 budget process, Council approved a use of TIF funds totaling $474,000 in order to reduce the municipal mill rate and mitigate the impact of school budget increases. Initially, this amount was approved as a transfer to the general fund to cover applicable costs. Subsequent research by the new Planning and Economic Development Director has revealed that the transfers into the general fund to cover related costs are not an allowed method of expending TIF funds. Therefore, this motion reallocates applicable general fund expenses to their corresponding TIF funds. The net impact to the general fund and use of surplus is zero.
Thank
City
you.
staff recommends approval. Be it ordered that the City Council approves the second and final reading of Budget Amendment Number 10, fiscal year 2019. I move to approve the order.
I have a motion by Councilor Copeland, seconded by Councilor Minthorn, regarding Budget Amendment Number 10, reallocation of funds. Any comments to my right? Any comments to my left? Seeing none, Councilor Archer?
Yes.
Councilor Gay?
Yes.
Councilor Doyle?
Yes.
Councilor Copeland?
Yes.
Councilor Minthorn?
Yes.
Councilor Smart?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. That's the second and final reading. The votes were sufficient for that budget amendment to come into effect. Councilor Gay, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On December 17, 2018, Council approved union contracts for public safety support, Public Works, WRRD, the Firefighters Association, and the Police Patrol in command while in executive session. Salary changes implemented immediately, but a budget amended is still required to appropriate the approved funding from payroll contingency. Before preparing the amendment, Finance and HR worked together to thoroughly audit all salary lines in the year fiscal 2019. Budget to ensure final budget amounts were corrected. Recommendation, city staff recommends approval. Be it ordered the City Council approves the second and final reading of the budget amended number 11. I move to approve the order.
Second.
So I have a motion by Councilor Gay, seconded by Councilor Johnston. Just 1 minute. Regarding budget amendment number 11. Mr. Sutherland, do you have a comment?
I do. I had rewritten the background on this, and in that I had made it clear that the decisions or the approvals were not made in executive session. They were made after executive session as required by law. So while the language of the background says just in executive session, it was in fact approved after it was discussed in executive session.
Thank you for that clarification, and I would hope the minutes will reflect that, that there was no decision-making during the executive session. I have that motion on the floor. I have a comment that Mr. Sutherland has just made. Any comments from the council to my right? Any comments to my left? Seeing none. Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Councilor Smart?
Yes.
Councilor Binthorn?
Yes.
Councilor Copeland?
Yes.
Councilor Doyle?
Yes.
Councilor Gay?
Yes.
And Councilor Archer?
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. Next is the administrative update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Beach Management Plan, the Piping Plover Coordination. Beach Management Plan approved by Council on June 4th, 2018, was required for the sand from the river dredging to be placed on the beach in Camp Ellis. As of today, April 1st, we are expected to begin our monitoring for piping plovers and other migratory birds. This project was originally going to be organized by our special projects staff person, but thankfully Patrick Fox from Public Works and Ryan Summer from Parks and Recreation stepped up to develop a program for year one. After gathering information from neighboring communities and seeing if we could share a staff resource, we unfortunately do not believe they can absorb this role for Saco with their current staffing levels. Many of the requirements of the plan will affect Parks and Recreation more than any other city department, as well as the recreation and leisure activities of our residents. So per the plan, we need to designate a piping plover coordinator, and also the individual will be someone capable of launching a new program with volunteer and reporting requirements to our state and federal agencies. So for year one of this new requirement, I'm designating Ryan Summer as the city's piping plover coordinator. It'll be a significant commitment of time and resources beyond anyone's existing day-to-day responsibilities. We're assuming it's about 10 hours per week for the next 20 to 25 weeks. So I'll be looking to recognize his work with an increase in pay for this additional workload through remaining open salary positions and possibly the Bayview parking revenues.